Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. Today we're going to do an updated character guide on Laguna. So Laguna recently returned on a special banner. We got his FR here for the first time, and he got a little bit of a rework. So if you're not familiar with Laguna, he is a big time like debuffer character, carries a lot of debuffs, has a very powerful gold frame debuff that can deal HP damage, which is really, really nice. So yeah, pretty nice, solid damage dealer, debuffer type of character. So in this video, we're going to look at his calls, his artifacts, and his spheres. And then we're going to do a little showcase and see how he's looking, right? So we're going to go ahead and start with the calls. His calls definitely can be solid. They're going to be a little bit better if you're doing like a debuff-centric team. So the 15 call is just going to put down like a couple of, so he's going to put down 3 generic debuffs when he comes in, no matter what. And you're going to get a little bit of damage there. And then the LD is also going to lay down the generic debuffs, but then another debuff called Coochie Coochie Treatment. And this debuff is actually pretty good. What this is going to do, it's going to do an attack and defense down per debuff that are on the enemy. So it maxes out at 24%. But then HP damage taken up per debuff up to 24%. So provided you're running a situation where you keep the enemies fully debuffed, a 24% HP damage up is actually a really nice thing to have on a call. I think the reason this call isn't talked about more, though, it's conditional on having the debuffs, and there's so many ways an enemy can throw that off, or, you know, if they have frame buffs, you know, have room to put all the debuffs on it. It just requires, like, kind of certain team builds that it's not, like, so free that you can put it on. Now, you can put it on, and you're automatically going to have 4 debuffs. You're going to have half of them there. So you'll for sure get some HP damage up on it, even if you use it. So it's definitely like a suitable one you could use if you're looking for HP damage up on the call, right? So with that, let's go ahead and look at Laguna himself. And then we're going to look at his artifacts here and his spheres. So for artifacts, and actually I don't have his quite set up right here. So you want this right here. Attack 108, Charismatic Aura Boost, 2-star. Increases his brave damage, increasing his attack. Definitely what you want to go in on there. Then we're going to go ahead and look at the spheres. And I went all in. I mean, Laguna, when he got his BT initially, was legitimately one of the best characters in the game. So I went pretty all in on him back when his BT dropped. I gave him all full spheres here, right? So A slot, just do your typical damaging spheres. So you could do attack, brave damage. You can even go range damage on him because he's got range damage. So if you have like an A slot range damage you want to put on, like I think Kane might be that, you could definitely throw something like that on there if you want to. And then on the C slot, Alphanod is really probably the best one you can put here. And you can tell I went all in when I used a full Alphanod sphere, because his is probably one of the most coveted C spheres in the game. And for me to use a full one on him, I really went all in back in the day. But he would probably be the best one because most C slots are healing triggers and he can't do that. Now, if you want to give him some utility and like make him heal, you could give him like a Theodore sphere if you want that. But I think you pretty much want to go offensive with this guy. So I think Alphanod's really what you want to do there if you have it. And then on the E slot, the big thing you have to avoid with E slot is several E slots actually put debuffs down. And you really don't want to do additional debuffs with Laguna because he's already eating 4 debuff slots. And actually, if you put the BT up, that's going to be a 5th debuff slot. So you really don't, like, that only leaves you with 3 more debuff slots. And you don't want to eat up another debuff slot with a sphere. You want to have room for other party members to put debuffs down. So I would really avoid adding more debuffs to him. Unless you're going to run team comps with, like, no debuffers and you want him to be able to put 8 on or something. And you want to add extra debuffs, then I suppose you could. But I would probably avoid that. Now, some that give auras, like if you want to do the one with the aura poison, you could do that for sure. But I really I think Irvine is probably best in slot here because it's a 15% range damage. So a couple of things here. Laguna really likes attack, especially like the reason why attack is so important on Laguna, and I should have pointed this out earlier, his Desperado trap that we're going to talk about, his gold frame trap, it scales off of his attack. So, like, and that's the big thing you want to abuse with him. So you just want to dump all into attack because the more you increase his attack, the more you're going to increase Desperado. So that actually is a reason maybe not to do Irvine, because I was just thinking about that as I go through. Ranged attack actually doesn't increase Desperado. So if you just want him for, like, his on-turn damage, I suppose Irvine's fine. But actually, realistically, you want, like, Yuffie, Seymour, or something like that that's going to do full attack. Now, since I put this full Irvine on here. So Irvine, I'll correct myself, definitely is not best in slot because of the Desperado thing. But it is good. Like, there aren't many like really powerful range damage dealers with E-slots. So in that sense, like there aren't many good characters to put it on. Now Irvine is going to get a really nice rework, and so he himself probably will want to use it. So I think if you have Irvine here, I think that's fine because it's just increasing his on-turn damage. But if you're really focused on Desperado, probably like Yuffie or Seymour, one of these good E-slots that will increase attack is what you want to do. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and hop into a little showcase here. And I just brought Ignis and Aerith. I'm like, let's just do a couple of big supports and really make him look good, right? Friend unit, sure, we'll bring another Aerith. I mean, we could really go crazy here. So let's go and hop in. Laguna's FR conditions won't be like the craziest. Like, they're decent. Like, it can be pretty free depending on the team you run. But it's not something that, like, Aerith can echo like crazy on. But that's okay. So let's hop in and kind of just get started with the kit here. All right, so with Laguna, I mean, you know what? I'm almost tempted to just burst phase. Yeah, let's just burst phase right away and just go through everything. Yeah, let's just do it. And we'll just see like his base damage without any BT effects. I'm going to do his AA quick. Just some nice generic stat buffs there. But yeah, let's just go into actual burst phase. And then I can just show off the kit and we can kind of make it quick and easy, right? So let's go ahead. We'll open with the EX. So this is called Ragnarok Buster here. See what we got for damage. And remember, this is no BT auras. Okay, about a mil damage, so that's pretty standard there, right? So if we go to the EX, this gives him a buff called Manly Charm. And then it does do an attack down, defense down, and speed down. Just generic debuffs on the enemy, but they are all framed, right? So you're eating up debuff slots with that. The Manly Charm is going to be a max brave up, overflow stolen up, brave damage up per debuff, and HP damage up per debuff. So that's pretty good because you're getting extra HP damage with that. So you definitely like putting that on. Let's drop the LD, which is called Ragnarok Blade. This is going to now trigger a follow-up with it. Okay, so we got the nice little follow-up there. And with that, we got about 1.7 mil AoE. So once again, pretty good, solid standard damage. Nothing like, and Laguna isn't going to be like a top-tier mega damage dealer. It's really the debuffing, and then that Desperado is like really nasty. We're going to get to that. So this is a character that if you're going to go for him, you do want the BT. Because without BT, I don't think Laguna is really worth running. Like that, his debuff is so strong. Like you just want that. So on the LD, as we're going through here, it's an AoE Brave HP attack 6 times. He does get a free ability use on his next turn. He gets a buff called Look, the Fairies Are Here, and it puts the Coochie treatment debuff down. So I already talked about that from the call. So it's attack and defense down per debuff and HP damage taken per debuff. So you're going to get more HP damage up if you have that. And then Look, the Fairies Are Here is an attack up, HP damage up, overflow stolen up, brave stolen up. And then he triggers an additional attack after all of his HP attacks. So realistically with Laguna, when you're starting a fight traditionally, you usually want to open with the LD because he does not get that at quest start. And you want to have his follow-ups available right away. So now you're going to notice just when I press other buttons, we're going to get follow-ups. So let's do Shotgun, the 35. And there you go. Now we get the follow-up with it. So when we were looking at the, so yeah, 1.25 million. When we were looking at the last 2 attacks, his damage is actually a lot better than what it looked like because he wasn't, when we did the EX, for example, it only did 1 million damage. That doesn't seem that crazy, but you kind of want to account in his follow-up because normally he would have that. So we'll do the EX again later on, and the damage will look better because it'll have the follow-up with it. And once again, we don't have the BT effect up yet either, right? So Shotgun, which we just did, that is a 3 HP dumping AoE attack. He gets a physical attack up, max brave up, and then an attack down on the enemies. And then we're going to do Grenade. This is the 15. And now we get the follow-up with it. All right, and then 1.25 mil AoE. So, you know, pretty standard damage on the 15 and 35, but you do want the follow-up with it. Otherwise, they're going to look a little bit underwhelming, I would say. This one's going to battery scale on his max brave and attack up and then defense down and speed down on the enemies. And then we can go ahead and hit the FR here. And of course, he's going to partner up with Vincent, which makes a lot of sense. Both ranged damage dealer debuffer characters, very similar styles. And now, just so you guys know, I could have like brought calls or paired like other debuffers because I'm not running like a very heavy debuffing team here. So the enemies won't be full of debuffs, but you'll just know that when you run him, you want to make sure you're running a team or have calls to keep the enemies at 8 debuffs to make his FR, especially if you're going to operate his FR. But it does help all of his buffs because they get stronger based on the number of debuffs down on the enemies, right? Okay. Then we'll hit Desperado. So this is the really big... To me, this is the reason why you summon Laguna, is for this Desperado. So what this is going to do is we're going to get a 6-turn burst effect, which is going to be Brave damage limit up and HP damage limit up, and it's per debuff. So once again, it's a really debuff focus centric type of setup. So there you go. All 5 of those debuffs are just from Laguna. Now we can throw down a couple, right? Because we got Raijin. So Raijin can add another one. So that puts us at 6. So we would need to fill up 2 more debuff slots. I don't remember exactly what I have on for calls, but I can't guarantee that I can actually fill those, but that's fine. We can do this one. I don't think this one does any debuffs. No. But now you notice that we're getting extra HP damage. So what happens with Desperado here? So the big thing is with this is so we get those BT buffs. But what Desperado does is it's only 4 turns. But you can really abuse this with like turn hoggers, burst phases, things like that. And it's literally any time they take HP damage, they take an additional HP damage follow-up, right? So Desperado is going to do a defense down, HP damage taken up, which is very good. And then anytime they take HP damage, it will trigger Desperado. And then it will do full HP damage, and it's scaled off of 500% of his attack, which is pretty crazy. And the thing with the Desperado, there's kind of like cheese you've been able to do in the past. I want to say with like Sice, because traps can trigger this, which is kind of crazy because you could have a trap go off, like you could attack, trigger a Desperado, then a trap could go off, and then the trap could trigger Desperado again. So you can do some really nasty things with the Desperado. So let's go ahead with Aerith, and we're going to just get, BT effect up right away. Now, once again, anytime they take HP damage, they're just getting extra Desperado damage, which is cool. So we're going to do that. We'll ramp a little bit. Throw down some Seal Evil. Yep, and then there you go, extra HP damage. So once again, 400k isn't the craziest, but it scales with Force. And once again, you can get a lot of ticks out of that with turn hoggers or turn manipulators, right? Or you could run a character like Zidane who literally will like delete the turns, and then the enemies can't take turns to get rid of the buffs, right? The debuffs. And it is gold frame, so even if there are enemies that like cleanse a lot, they literally can't get rid of it. There's nothing they can do. It's just going to sit there. I think I'm going to ramp kind of heavy here because I think we'll just get into a Laguna FR pretty quick. So we'll just ramp a bit, and then obviously we have Ignis. He can ramp a bit too. Yeah, we'll just crank up a bunch here. And then Aerith doing off turn, which is nice. We'll do one more, and then we'll pop into the Seal Evil. So let's Seal Evil. There we go. Added another debuff, so we got him at 7. So we just need one more debuff to... So you can see, even running a couple of supports and having a couple of like average calls, we're still able to get some stuff down. Actually, I think she puts a debuff down. Yeah. So just with Rydia, you know, some of these normal calls I bring, we were easily able to get this up to 8. So now they're fully debuffed. We're getting like the max damage, all the max stuff from Laguna here, right? So we've got all that. And Ignis is going to... what stance do I want to be in? I mean, I don't think these guys debuff. So I think I'm going to go offensive stance. I'm not really worried about debuff evasion here. So I'm fine with offensive stance. And then I think we will go... sure, let's do a regroup. Perfect. All right, and I think I can hit Ignis's BT, and we should be good. So let's go and hit that. All right, so now we'll have full BT effects. And then Laguna can get into a Force time. Now, in this team build, would I use Laguna's Force to lead? No, I wouldn't. I'm only going to lead with it because it's a showcase. Normally, I would lead with Iggy here and have Aerith go crazy. But that's fine. We got the total clarity. Ignis is so crazy, man. He is so crazy. All right, 500k now. So you can see the damage just scaling up as we get Force, or burst effects up and everything. All right, and you see the enemies hitting us for ones because we got them pretty heavily debuffed. So that's the other thing too, is like when you're looking at a character like Laguna, you're not just looking at damage, right? It's what are we doing to the enemy, and we are crippling them down with debuffs, right? So in like, even though it's like a generic attack, a defense, and a speed down, these are very heavy. Like it's a 50% attack down. It's a 60% defense down, 50% speed down. So they're generic, but they're big and they're heavy, and we're getting a lot of other stuff with it, right? Including the Desperado. So let's go ahead and do the FR. This is called Gunner Beat. Let's see what the damage looks like here. We saw it earlier with Vincent, but we'll talk about the actual conditions now. So let's just see, like, with the follow-up and everything kind of all going in. Okay, 3 mil. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good for burst attack there, 3 mil. And then, once again, you can count the Desperado in there for another 600k. And now we're building up multiplier, right? So how this is going to work on his force is it does inflict, like, the generic defense, attack, and speed down. So we got all that. And then it's just doing AoE Brave damage, 40%. And then if you act while the enemy is debuffed, it's 5% per debuff. So that's going to scale up to another 40%. So essentially the way this works is the enemy's right now fully debuffed. We're getting 40% for free, and we don't have to attack to do that. So Aerith will still echo kind of nice on it. I think she's going to echo for like 120 is what I would estimate. But then if you do AoE Brave damage, you get the full 80%. So if you're going to lead with Laguna, you want to, for one, make sure you probably have another debuffer in there, or a way to consistently keep up 8 debuffs. And you want all allies that are doing AoE damage, right? So let's go ahead and do Ignis's Echo. And I don't remember if his is AoE or not. We're going to find out. I think it is AoE. Yep, that's AoE. So that should trigger all of it. So we should get 100% here on this Echo. Yep, 105. So, I mean, it definitely can work nice, right? Yeah, and then now, once again, those HP damages are popping off a lot of damage. We can do the Aerith trick here now and go crazy. So Aerith, I think, should get 120, which is still a really nice Echo. Let's see what happens here. Aerith popping in. Oh, only 85. So, okay, hold on. Let me know. So you might actually have to attack the debuffed enemies. It says act versus a debuff enemy. So I think you have to interact with the enemy. So you don't get that for, that's good to know. So for his FR, it's one that you have to attack with. Because you'll see here with Aerith, her Echo is 80% for free. So if she doesn't get above 80%, which she doesn't really get that here, that means she's not triggering anything. So it's not simply the enemies existing with debuffs, you have to interact with them, which makes sense because you have to target a certain enemy, and Aerith didn't really do anything to an enemy. So I guess now that I think about it more, that does make sense. So it's a good Echo that if you have AoE damage dealers and you're attacking with everybody, and they have attacking Echoes, I think it's a good FR you could lead with. But once again, if you've got these crazy support characters, you've got like your Ignis, your Rosa with like their really free FRs. That's usually what I'm going to lead with. But I think it's definitely like a good enough FR you can lead with. I remember even liking Locke's FR. Like Locke's is a really nice one too. So yeah, I think it's just getting to the point where I've been actually, I think, pretty happy with most of the FR conditions that have come out lately. They've gotten pretty good about having, I would say, at least 40% of it like for free without much effort. If not like all of it for free. So that's really nice. So now the friend Aerith will hit Holy. And you can see we had a nice gauge at 568. And then we'll kind of see what Laguna can do here. We'll get him up to, I mean, I could even ramp with Ignis just to see like what can Laguna do at max gauge. I don't know that Laguna is a character I'm going to do a damage test for. Once again, he's more of the type where you just sit on his debuff. So yeah, we got 85% there, which that makes sense. That's what it should be. Because we did do AoE damage. Now, they did knock off a debuff, right? So now we're not going to get the full gauge. And this is kind of the problem with something like this, is if you aren't constantly debuffing, now we're actually losing force gauge because we don't have the full effect up. But that's fine. I'm not worried about it. Actually, I could do Sage Fire. That should put a debuff down. Yep, there we go. We refreshed it. And that counted, and we still got the full 85%. So there you go. As long as you're running debuffers, you're good. So yeah, even with this like kind of supporty team, we still were able, I mean, with Laguna carrying 5 out of the 8 debuffs, you really don't have to bring like a specific another debuffer, right? Like if you have Laguna and Vincent, like that's probably overkill, right? So with Laguna, sure, let's Echo with him. Let's see what his Echo does at 738. So Laguna's definitely like a nice character. I feel like though his rework did seem kind of minimal. Like his HP damage, like even though you can trigger it a lot, right? Like 4 mil there, like that's good, but we're at like 800%. I feel like that could have been a little bit harder. And like a lot of his stuff, if you look, like his Brave hits, his HP dumps, there's like a 4 dump, a 3 dump. I mean, they do give him the follow-up with it. And I guess the follow-up has 4 dumps, but I feel like it's still like, I mean, we're seeing characters with like 15, 16 dumps these days and like with follow-ups and stuff. So I think they're trying to balance him though, because he does have all the debuffs and everything. I just don't think he's not like an overwhelming must-pull type of character. He's definitely very cool. If you like debuff setups, he can be very powerful. And once again, you can get a lot of abuse because as every character attacks, we're just getting free extra damage on that gold debuff, right? All right, and they're tentacle knocking. And then we're going to go in with some more follow. And then there's the Desperado. So, yeah, I mean, if you're spamming a lot of turns, it does add up. And we've seen that with these types of, kind of chip damage characters that it really does add up over time, especially if you're stealing turns, getting a lot of free turns. You can do some crazy things. You could do a setup with, like, Realm. And I know I've been talking about Realm a lot lately. But you could do a setup where... maybe Laguna's sitting in the back and she's pulling up herself and the other character, or just anything to stay in front of the enemies a little bit. Like, you can do some crazy things and just like abuse that gold debuff. So that 4 turns, you can see here, we pretty much have killed them. We'll do the LD here at full gauge, but yeah, they're basically dead and they haven't even gotten rid of that 4-turn debuff yet. And with Laguna, if he's green, you can put that on twice. Yeah, 27 mil, okay. And he is doing, I would say for AoE damage, he's actually pretty good because he does do a lot of AoE damage. And I think in a 3-target fight, you put everything together with the HP, with the Desperados, like it is going to be a lot of damage. All right, so we'll finish him off. So anyways, guys, there you go. There's Laguna. Definitely like a very good debuff character you can use. He's got definitely a solid force condition. Definitely if you like to abuse that Desperado. To me, that's what he's all about, is that gold buff, and it's very, very good. So let me know what you think of this guy. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.